Hi, y'all. It's Bridget Cutchow with Real Things Living. Today, my guest is Michelle Slater. She is an author, a dog lover, and the president of the educational nonprofit May Apple Center for the Arts and Humanities. Can you say hi, Michelle?
Hello, Bridget. Thank you for having me today.
I think this is awesome what you're doing. I read a little bit about your background. You also are a scholar of comparative literature, which I didn't mention earlier, but you have a wonderful creative background. And then one thing that we definitely have in common, or two things actually, books and dogs. Right.
That's right.
And so since you're a lifelong lover of dogs, um, what prompted you to, I guess, write this most recent one, Soulmate Dog, which I think I'm totally on the same page with you. There are soulmates.
Absolutely, they are, and that's the reason that I wrote it because the soulmate dog in question here, Bridget, was named Brady, and he was a German Shepherd who captured my heart and soul from the first time that I met him, and then we grew into a deep, profound relationship, and it was so profound, and he was so profound. And his story and our story as this, what I've been calling an interspecies 21st century love story, was so impactful that I felt it could benefit readers because there isn't a lot to, let's say, validate this connection that I'm calling a soulmate dog connection. But when I mention the title of my book to people, their eyes light up and they're like, "Oh yes, I have a soulmate dog too." So I've started collecting soulmate dog anecdotes because people are so moved by this term and they feel it themselves. So that's part of the genesis of how soulmate dog came to be.
That is really cool. I'm glad you had the experience of writing, obviously, and you can put it down and make it more intriguing, I'm sure, the story. And as you were talking, there's just so many stories everybody has, those that are listening, with a dog. And right before I started recording, I mentioned to Michelle, my first dog was a German Shepherd, but I don't remember when my father got it for us, but he probably did it because he knew, because he was in Vietnam, going to Vietnam, right? He probably knew we needed something to replace him, maybe, right? I should say replace him. That didn't come out right. But I think animals in general, especially dogs, over I don't know how many years, that's why we're just so connected to them. And we don't really talk about it, right? And I think that's why it's great that you wrote this book. And some people know that I always have a dog with me. And there's something I also, not just soulmate, I see it as also protection, maybe as a woman. That's how I see it sometimes. Does that make sense?
Um, I know that that does play a role with a lot of people, the element of protection. Um, I think I give off pretty fierce vibes myself and don't feel like I need a lot of protection,
Right,
but I
right.
felt like we protected each other. You know, I also talk a lot about um the philosophical standing of animals and because he doesn't have the legal rights that I have, even though in my mind we are of the same stature. In fact, I felt in some ways that I was um you know I would say an inferior being rather than being the superior being. In some ways, he was so expansive with his soul. But because he didn't have the legal rights that I had, I felt that I needed to protect him and stand up for his rights and make sure that he was getting the medical care that he needed. And and so I think we protect each other when we have soulmate dogs.
Right. I guess I used the word protect because my father, like I said, got me that first dog. I think I was 3. So, and I don't know, I'm so glad he introduced dogs to our life. And they
Absolutely.
protect each other. You're right. You took care of Brady. You took him to have the proper health care. And then he was around 5, right? When he had his first health issue. And I think I am on the same page. I've had so many dogs. It's that I can't even tell you how many dogs I've had, but I adopt dogs too. Right? I'm a believer in that because they are sentient beings. Is that the right word? And we should respect them. And we do need to, right? You mentioned we do need to protect them, and they're here for a purpose. That's how I like to look at it. And I think it's great. Now, another thing I've noticed too, when I'm with dogs, they also remind you to be in the moment. As a human, we always like rush, 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 get through something, right? Hurry up. And they seem to embrace their surroundings as well. Right? Hope you understood that. I think you got to pause there.
Yes. So there's a lot there in what you just said, Bridget. And I think that um, what you're talking about also in terms of protections, almost like an emotional support dog is what your father was looking for you. And I think that they are such natural emotional support creatures because they have this ability to love unconditionally and to sense our emotional state. And that's such a profound way of being. It's such a deep level of caring, and one that you have a hard time finding in relationships between humans. But the dog that's able to love unconditionally is has a lot to teach us. And so I write a lot about that in my forthcoming book, Soulmate Dog. And that's right. Also being able to be in the moment and share those moments together. I felt that I loved being in the moment so much with Brady that I would really rather spend a day with him at home or, out and about hiking than have any other social engagements. I would even turn down invitations to things from people because I just wanted to be in the moment with Brady.
That's true. My husband
For
just,
me,
yeah, my husband has got a little magnet for me on my fridge. It says dogs are welcome, people are tolerated. So he knows. I mean, it's a joke, but we have so much in common about I would rather walk with my dog than sit down and watch TV, right? Or if you're just engaging with them, and we can learn from them. And I think, they do provide unconditional love, and the veterinary medicine is so critical too. I think I have a lot of respect for people who go into that field, doctors in general, right? And especially those that are helping animals. That is something that is inside me because of my dog Rex. I call his name was Rex, by the way, the first dog I had. And it's just amazing the impact. I think the younger you are when you're exposed to that, you obviously were probably young too when you're exposed to dogs, I'm assuming, like me.
yes, absolutely. I was. We also had a German Shepherd, Bridget, and I write about early on in my book. My parents read books out loud with me when I was a very small child about the human animal relationship. And so I always had it in my mind to have a deep respect for that relationship and yearn to have one of my own. And I would when I was a child, I adopted dogs. I wasn't always allowed to keep them, but my parents would help me find a more suitable home for them.
Right.
But homeless dogs seem to come to me. So
That's
I know
amazing.
what you mean.
Right. I think that's amazing how we've got a lot of I think we have less stray dogs now. I don't know. They're in the South. You live up in the Northeast. I live in the South, and we have a lot of issues with probably more stray dogs now than you guys do for some reason. And it's just that's probably why I got so involved with the Humane Society and things like that. It's
Yes.
because you just want them to be taken care of. They're so important to our world, to our environment, not just the humans, but to other animals. We're all connected with nature. I feel like I'm going down a different path here, but I just believe we're all here to support each other. And the Humane Society, I'm assuming they're up there where you're at. I'm not sure where they're headquartered, but we have multiple locations here in our state that I live. And that's where I've adopted most of my dogs. And I've had one dog just given to us because they couldn't handle her, right? So that's one reason. Another thing with my husband and I, we joke that I spoil them, but he can train them. He knows how to talk to them. He's like a dog whisperer. So that was a winner for me to find someone like that who loves dogs like me. And I think
Absolutely.
it was a package deal. Okay. Okay. We're always gonna have a dog if you're around me.
Absolutely. I think that must love dogs has to be in the partner description of someone who has dogs, loves dogs, has soulmate dogs. And you mentioned the animal communication, animal whisperer part.
Yeah.
That's another strong component of my book, Soulmate Dog, about my relationship with Brady, because in the book, our relationship grew. As I describe it, our relationship grew even stronger when I started learning the techniques of animal communication and being able to communicate with Brady on a more profound level with higher order thinking and thoughts. Just it just strengthened the bond that we already had. So for me, the animal communication element is really important in soulmate dogs, so that people understand that dogs are more than, as I call it, just a dog, that they actually have a faculty of language that philosophers have never acknowledged before, and I hope that they start to.
Right. They're smarter than we give them credit for. Usually,
By far.
yeah, by far. We're not giving credit to a lot of animals, but I think I'm not sure when do you know the history of that? When humans started being with dogs? It was over, I don't even know, hundreds and hundreds of years ago.
Oh, it's from, I mean,
Beginning, yeah.
since the beginning, really. There's and I do talk about um some of that history in my book too. But yes, there's a very long, deep relationship that as in across the world, really. Um, but in terms of where philosophy has gone to describe that relationship, and as well as being a scholar in comparative literature, I'm also a scholar in animal studies. I've written articles, academic articles on the animal human relationship. And I find that philosophy, even groundbreaking philosophy and animal studies, has been lacking on the notion of what a dog is capable, especially in the area of the faculty of language and higher order thinking. So I'm hoping that my book will be able to shed some light on what my findings have been based on my relationship with Brady and our experiences that were so eye-opening for me.
It is it is just so beautiful. I didn't know you're doing the research on that too, because it is so important that we need to understand it more. And you're going into an area that we all love. I think it doesn't matter your background. For some reason, majority of us, I should say, we all love animals and we need to understand them more. And I like the aspect that you're trying to help them more. So what do you think? Do you think at least one or two big takeaways for your writing your book for about your dog?
So, big takeaways for the reader from my book is what you're asking for. Well, I think that, there are four important tax themes in my book. One is certainly the relationship between the animal and the human from a philosophical level, and that would be that a dog is absolutely not just a dog, that we need to have more of a respect and more of an open-mindedness to what they are capable of. And I think that that leads right into the animal communication, that there are these tools for us to employ so that we can understand even what their medical needs are, and we can have a deeper relationship with them, and even fulfill their needs more if we employ that. And that leads me to the medical and holistic veterinary practices part of the book. My German Shepherd was severely ill, and part of my impetus for writing this book, Bridget, was that he overcame something that veterinarians said he shouldn't have overcome, this severe case of leptospirosis. So the reader can read about it. It was a dire situation, and I supported him through it with the help of animal communication and holistic vets, and even my own belief in him, knowing what he really was as a true being. And lastly, I think that there is a major takeaway from Soulmate Dog about what it means to grieve and how to grieve. I think a lot of books about dogs end and the dog has died, but then the reader is even grieving and you're sort of left. And so, highly cognizant of that, I wanted to devote a portion of Soulmate Dog to the grieving process and to validate the grief that we feel for our soulmate dogs and our beloved animal companions. And that is just as valid as the loss that we feel with another human, and how to navigate that. And so I do devote um, a, I do devote a portion of Soulmate Dog to that. And I think that's very helpful for the reader. I think it can provide consolation and also just grant a level of legitimacy for what people are feeling when they lose their beloved animal. So I would say that those are sort of the four main areas for
Okay.
takeaways.
As you were talking, it also made me think of, I think they're also used for, they can be used for detecting cancer, right? I know because I've had cancer a couple times, and I'm not saying they discovered mine, but they knew um, something was not right with me. It's kind of hard to explain the two dogs I had at the time, and they helped support me when I went through the cancer treatment. And then when they passed away, I had this woman, her daughter created these portraits of me. I'm sorry, for me of my dogs. Isn't that beautiful? I have it hanging on those two dogs. One of them was a Great Pyrenees, and she knew she just had to be by my side when I was going through that. They're just so beautiful, and everybody has a different experience. But she would sniff the area where I had cancer, Michelle. Isn't that weird?
That
And
is that is really extraordinary, but I absolutely believe it. It's
yes. And I don't know, but I'm just like something. She just knew something wasn't right. I don't normally, because I would sit and pet, and they would just sniff you in certain areas because they're being used for so many purposes, and we should. I think it'll help our humanity if we connect with them, respect them more. Is that the right word?
absolutely.
Help us
Yes,
more.
absolutely. Absolutely. And actually, the cover of Soulmate Dog is a portrait that I had commissioned of Brady,
Oh, that's
based on a
awesome.
based on a photograph that I took. He used to like to climb this tree and sit in the tree and watch people go by in the neighborhood.
That is
And it was a photo I love so much that I thought, well, if he's my soulmate dog, he is worthy of being the subject of a portrait. And so that's how I love your story about having the portraits of your dogs, the paintings of your dogs. It just
right. I
it's
never
very
thought
special.
I never thought I would have that done, but they're prominent in our living room because it's just so important, and it was just a reminder. Oh, God, I love dogs, and
Absolutely.
it is just they're just so, like you said, they're soulmates. And there's another movie. I can't remember the name of it. One of my favorite movies is about this dog. I can't remember the name of it, but it's like its soul goes to different dogs in the future, and it ends up back with the original owner. Oh gosh, I'm sorry, I can't remember the name of it.
Oh yes, I do know what you're speaking about.
I think it was a book, and then they turned it into a movie. It's a
Yes.
film based on that, and that's really popular now. I think your book, I'm not kidding, would make a good film. That's just what, because it just resonates with so many people, and sharing stories like this is so important. And I really appreciate your time, Michelle. So where can people learn more about you? You're very, very inspirational.
Well, thank you, Bridget. I would be delighted for Soulmate Dog to become a film. I think Brady was a real character and such a presence, larger than life, and he would make great fodder for a film. But people can find me on michelleslater.com. That's MICHELLESLATER.com. Also on Instagram, Michelle B. Slater, and even TikTok for book talk. And I have, so Soulmate Dog is coming out on June 10th. And then I also have a forthcoming novel coming out in March, The Lunatic. And one of the main characters is a dog who's very special. So for readers who might be enjoying Soulmate Dog, The Lunatic might be interesting as well.
I like that. I like the Luna. That's really kind of cool. I shouldn't say cool, but I just love that you're using your experiences and being creative, and that it's just so important. We need that in our world right now. And I love your story. And for those that are listening, I will have the link she mentioned in the description. And thank you so much. And thank you to all those dog lovers and animal lovers out there, right?
Yes, that's right. Thank you for having me, Bridget, and thank you for allowing me to share my story about these absolutely beautiful beings that we share our lives with, that we're so privileged to share our lives with and who love us so much. And it's feels very special to celebrate them.
Yes, let's celebrate dogs. Need to have a dog days every day.
Absolutely.
Thanks again, everybody.